a lunch and learn. And we just want to go ahead and had a chance for some folks to tell us that they're on the line. But anybody who hasn't let us know as we're taking attendance, can you go ahead and tell us who has joined us?
Or they can just send an email.
Yeah, we'll look to that. Go ahead.
Keith Kiesling, Dolores County Emergency Manager.
Hey, Keith, good to have you. Anyone else?
Steve Cabellis, West Metro Fire.
Glad you could join us.
This is
Daryl Branson, PUC 911 program.
Hey, Daryl. In the interest of, go ahead.
Doug Crandall from Viera Wireless.
Hey, Doug.
This is Kevin Neiman from the Joint Budget Committee staff at the General Assembly. Yep.
If there's anyone else who's on the line, and we would like to definitely get your attendance so that we can send you some materials afterward. Orion has been gracious to put together the slide deck that you're going to see, and so we'll be able to send that to you in a PDF format. Also, we are recording the session, and so have that link up on our during the call. If you could keep your phones on mute. If you have a question, then you can take it off mute and then certainly chime in. But if those of you who are sitting at your desk and it's convenient, if you could just record your attendance with us at OIT_broadband at state.co.us. That's OIT_broadband at state.us. And you know, we're going to go ahead and get started. I've asked the guys from Orion, Greg and Gabe, to budget their time for us today. And so I think they've got some stuff that'll be interesting to everyone on the phone. I'll let them go ahead and introduce themselves and get started. And then we'll reserve the last 5 minutes to give you some more details. As I mentioned, we plan on having a lunch and learn at least once a month. Right now, we have some tentative plans next month to hear from Sonam Technologies and Fairtooth and the collaboration they've got going on there. But right now, I'm going to turn it over to either Greg or Gabe, whoever's going to start us off. And guys, would you go ahead and tell us the exciting stuff that you're doing?
Yeah, absolutely. Many thanks, Ed. We appreciate the opportunity to talk with you and the rest of the team today. My name is Gabriel Taylor, and I have about 20 some odd years of experience within software, hardware, and mobility solutions within the public and private sector, primarily here in Silicon Valley, where we're based. Seated next to me is Greg Albrecht, our CTO and co-founder. I'll have him speak a little bit about his background as well.
Yeah, good morning, everyone. This is Greg Albrecht. I'm the CTO and co-founder of Orion. My background is in large-scale telecom systems, sort of disaster relief telecom systems. And I'm also a EMT and field medical supervisor out here in San Francisco. And I think what you'll see in what Gabe and I are presenting today is, you know, how me and both my co-founder, who's a firefighter EMT, have leveraged our experience with the communication systems we use in the field in a modern sense, right? We're taking our experience, applying them to modern technologies. We're assuming that the internet is real, that cellular connectivity is real, and that smartphones are real. And we're adding a layer of superpowers, as we like to call them, to that.
So with that in mind, we provide a little bit of oversight into what the solution is. So as Greg mentioned, we provide real-time voice services for team communication and collaboration, and voice-driven workflows and IoT solutions as well. These come in a couple of different forms, in the form of a mobile app and a wearable device, shown on the top left, in the form of integration with traditional radios or tools that you're likely already using, you are already using. High-level administrative and granular capabilities to manage all of the users. And then what differentiates us from other solutions, communication solutions, are some of our more advanced capabilities that we'll dive into much more deeply moving forward as well. So just as to sort of set the stage for the conversation today, as opposed to being a fire hose of information, we like to be a little more give and take. So if there are questions or we can clarify any aspects on our solution, feel free to pose questions, interrupt us. That's kind of the idea here. We're happy to dig in at any point. And we have allocated time towards the end as well for Q&A, but if there's any area in particular that's of interest, raise your hand and pose the question. So much that's happening today in computer interactions. And voice, to a large extent, is the new interface. And bots are the new apps. And voice-enabled devices are becoming ubiquitous today, though they've primarily been consumer-focused thus far. So think Siri, Amazon Alexa, and others. And what we offer is a communication solution with the same phones, same devices that you're using today, that works on any data network anywhere in the world, including obviously Wi-Fi. So for us, what we consider bots or bot integrations are new workflows. We'll dig into this a little more deeply as well, but this allows you to use voice for certain predetermined workflows and commands. Again, we'll dig into this momentarily. So what have we built? We have built fundamentally a platform for instant voice communication for people and machines across any distance without boundaries. So whether that is dedicated devices and IoT, from connecting to drones or vehicle applications or wearable devices, smartphones you're using today, web clients and applications, integrations in the third-party voice services, for example, we have the ability to work with, in, and among them. And then as mentioned, we can also bridge to other products that you're using today to extend some of this more advanced capabilities to those devices. So we've created a massively scalable platform that allows for advanced functionalities. So voice platform. So the platform itself has three major components. We'll dig into each of these components as well. But it sort of starts with a command center, which is a high-level administrative capability. It allows you to manage all of your users and all of your groups from one location. So you can reset passwords, add users, remove users, set permissions for all of those users. The Orion network services are, again, this is the platform. This is what routes the messages in real time, but also what provides us the ability to integrate into these third-party services and provide more advanced functionalities. And this is where some of the more sophisticated solutions live as well. For example, the bots, the voice assistants. And in addition to that, Orion clients. That's sort of the third major portion or part of the solution. This is how you access the platform. So whether it's in the form of an app and wearable device, or an app only that allows you to communicate directly from the phone, or in a specialty device, such as a QSO Duraforce or a Sonon that has a dedicated PPD button. There are various ways to access the system to communicate. What you'll see that kind of ties these all together is that we provide not only real-time communications, but also provide real-time location insights for each of the users. And again, we'll dig into this a little more deeply as well. That should give you a sort of a high-level overview of what the solution is and the various components to it. So what's the voice service itself? So our clients begin streaming voice communications in real time. We don't store it or record and forward it, but it's truly in real time. So we use our own low latency streaming protocol together with cutting edge content CDN that pushes it down really in real time. This also allows us to scale to an unlimited number of users. And I'm certain that sort of being part of the public sector, security in your communications and secure communications are top of mind for you. So know that our communications are secured from end to end. It's encrypted with wearable device, from device to device. So we make a couple assumptions about the messages. We assume that the network is potentially compromised and the device itself may not be secure. And so our messages are entirely secured from end to end. So the command center, again, we're not going to spend a lot of time here, but this is a high-level administrative portal that allows you to manage all users in real time. So again, add those users, remove those users, reset passwords, create groups, create permissions for those groups. So who has the ability to transmit and receive? Can those from an outside organization join the organization? Things of that nature. Additionally, there is, we showed it in a preview of this stage, but we have real-time mapping and tracking that is part of the administrative portal as well. And so this could be asset tracking, people tracking, etc. Any questions thus far about the solution? Great, we're going to move on. So the mobile application, again, one of the clients, allows you real-time location insights to each of the users who's part of a group. So you can see the groups that you're in. You can easily join a group. You can see the people in those groups and any bots that are living in those groups as well. This happens to be showing the app-only version of it. We refer to it as App Talk, but it has a PTT button on the lower screen right there. So simply press the button and you're communicating in real time. The app also allows you to request various users, invite various users immediately to a group to begin communicating in real time. And this works on top of both iOS and Android devices. The wearable device. The wearable device is designed to allow a user to be heads up and eyes on. The entire face of the device is talkback, so it's both a speaker and a microphone. The speaker itself is relatively robust, the microphone is relatively sensitive. Again, it's designed to allow the user, whether driving or covert or otherwise, who needs to be heads up and sort of hands on, something allows them to do that and still remain able to communicate. Everything here can be managed via touch. So rock her up for the volume, for example. You can mute yourself by turning the face of the device. And if discrete communications are required, then there is a 3.5 millimeter headphone jack that can be plugged into as well. The device itself has, let's call it an average battery life or a talk time of 10 to 12 hours and a quick charge of 90 minutes. Okay, so as mentioned, we are first and foremost a platform. We're a cloud platform, and because we're a cloud platform, we have the ability to integrate into some more sophisticated third-party services and offer more advanced capabilities, including voice bots or voice assistants. So, what's the voice? Current options for voice bots are certain everyone's familiar with them, Amazon Alexa, for example, or Siri. And these are, again, consumer focused. So what's the weather, or I'd like to order this item added to my cart, please, or set the kitchen timer, etc. It's really designed for personal information and productivity, and it's offered as sort of a disparate service. So they're serving different purposes. There are also text-based chatbots, for example, that you might see if you are working through a customer service issue on a website. And these are designed to decrease worker costs and not necessarily increase the productivity of a given worker. So Orion voice bots connect workers to real-time information. And this, the benefits of this is a sort of greater efficiency, decreased response time, for example, and a higher level of service just by using your voice. So some of the bots that we offer are, for example, real-time language translation. So, for example, I can speak, where you download it, you would see something that says language preview. And this allows a user to speak English, for example, and push out to Spanish, and have that Spanish speaker respond in Spanish and push out to English. We support, however, up to 140 some odd languages. Additionally, we have something we refer to as a panic bot, and this is a bot that's listening for keywords to set off a series of predetermined events. We'll talk a little bit more about this, but think of it as a bot that's sort of passively living in the background that is just waiting for these words to happen. And by uttering these words, it could send a text message, it could send an email with GPS location, it could place a phone call. It can do any number of things we'll dig into. But again, it's listening for keywords. We also have inventory bots, example, that are available. For example, how many of XYZ do we have in stock? We also have the ability to do voice text and text to voice. So for example, we can integrate with Slack and Skype and Microsoft Teams and other solutions of that nature. Probably most importantly, though, is that we have an SDK available that allows users to create their own bots for their own workflows. So we can build them, or you can build them. And all these bots are managed via our command center. So you can add them to groups, remove them from groups, and give certain folks access to them. So what we do now is give you an example of real-time language translation. Again, we support up to 140 some odd languages, and these bots can live passively in a group or can be a group themselves. So as an example, maybe you have somebody who's been greeted, welcome, how may I help you? And again, this is English to Spanish, Spanish to English, for example. So give me a moment here, and I'm going to demo what this looks like, the experience you have on this.
So the same way that you may be speaking to other members of your team in real time, you're able to talk to things in real time. So we say you can talk to people and you can talk to things. So Gabe is going to demonstrate the thing, which is the translation bot. In the same group that Gabe would use to communicate with me, he can communicate with the translation bot.
Good morning. How may I help you? So what's happening right now is that it's going to, again, this is a preview.
Buenos días.
And what it's doing right now, it's going to hit our server, and I paused, so it picked it up one moment. Good morning. How may I help you? So what it's going to do, again, leave it language preview. It's going to hit our server and come back. So we use a number of different translation services, from Microsoft Bing to IBM Watson, et cetera.
Sorry, I didn't hear that. One more time.
Live demos are Great.
Good morning. How may I help you? So once again, it will take a moment. It hits our server, comes back.
Buenos días. ¿En qué puedo ayudarle?
And then you can have a conversation going back and forth with this person. So think of a real life scenario, whether it is somebody who is on the street, it is a public safety officer who encounters a non-English speaker and needs to communicate with that person, or it could be in a first responder capacity as well. So imagine with, let's say you have an EMT, for example, who's there who encounters a non-English speaker. Can you describe your symptoms in Spanish, for example, and that person can communicate back in their native language for the first responder. Emergency or panic button as well. And this emergency or panic button is listening for keywords. That keyword could be as obvious as emergency. It could be subtle as blueberries, or any word that you determine. And it can be used in scenarios. So it could be used for an undercover scenario, for example. It could be used for example, a fire or a car crash, or whatever scenario you have in mind, it could be used for. And this can alert, for example, security team by sending an email or making a phone call or sending a text message to several people or hundreds of people if need be. It can get recommendations across all groups and reach out to other team members as necessary. Again, it can also send an email, for example, with GPS location of the person who triggered that emergency or that panic button. It can also send, depending on the who's on the system, it can send a link to someone so they can join an emergency group so everyone's communicating in real time following that trigger. So right now I'm going to demo what this could look like and a message that would be received if, for example, I were a security or placed a phone call to me.
A quick question, if I may.
Please.
Steve Cabellas. You said GPS location. Is that going to be lat long or nearest address or what?
The GPS location is a location we're receiving from the phone or the smart device itself. So it's to whatever granularity the device is giving us. As far as reverse geocoding goes, that's something that could be set up through an integration to do the, sort of give you approximate address, and that's something we've done an integration around before. But typically, the data that we're sending across is just lat long and altitude.
Okay. And real quick, something you mentioned before that you're developing mapping. Is that going to be something like Google Maps or a different vendor or proprietary?
So the map that appears in the app today is available today. So if you're a user who downloads our app in the store, it's going to use whatever app or whatever map is native to your device. On iOS, it's going to be Apple Maps. On Google, it's going to be Google Maps. But as far as the web-based mapping goes, the preview we're using is using an OpenStreetMap layer, but we could certainly, change the background layer or the sort of the foreground layer to whatever you need. I think in the preview we showed on the slide, we had a OpenStreetMap in the background, and then we had taken a grid map of an event and overlaid that so that we could track users in real time, both using the special event map. The gate's going up there.
Yeah, I see it.
Yeah, you see the grid there. So that was a one-off we did, but we have that capability to overlay special event map.
Okay, good enough. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, so with that in mind, let's get into the panic bot. So let's say that I say the keyword emergency. We have a fire in the warehouse. I need all available hands. An incident in the warehouse. I need all available hands. So it's going to take a moment, but what you'll hear in the background momentarily is a phone call. You're going to hear a phone ring. Okay, so that's the phone ringing right there. I'm going to answer it. I'll answer it as security, for example. Security?
Gabriel said, emergency, 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 that we have a fire in the warehouse. And he told him all hands fire and incident warehouse in all the labs. August 22nd, 2018 at 11:25 a.m. This is an immediate request for assistance. Direct all security personnel to the specified location. Follow all internal procedures. If necessary.
So you get the idea there. So what it can do and what it did here is it placed a phone call and transcribed the voice message that I had, and additionally had some predetermined text there as well, or messaging there as well. So you can imagine that if there is a user who's in the field who triggers it, and this goes out to all users in whatever form they're consuming the platform or on the platform, they can be notified with this, and then also, for example, have a GPS location for me, in addition to some reminders, for example, of what's necessary. Any questions about that or what those flows could look like? Okay. So additionally, and I'm going to have Greg talk a little bit about this one, we've created a bot for hospital status. And what this allows, for example, an EMT to do is to query what the status is. So you've picked up a patient and they're not certain where they're going to take the patient. This allows them to say what's hospital status, the availability at various hospitals in the area, so they know where to go.
Yeah, this was informed from my experience, here in the city as a medic. 300 some odd times a day on the radio, you hear a medic checking to see what the hospital status is, whether we're on diversion for particular ERs. So, this was a low-hanging fruit for me. I said, well, this data is available through ReadyNet or Coral or some other system. Why don't we just stick a bot in there and allow it to answer the question, allowing the medics to continue to focus on treating their patient, and allowing the dispatchers to sort of focus on other critical conversations they could be having, as opposed to, this sort of routine hookup that's occurring several times a day. So in a group, you just have a bot passively listening for whatever the keywords are, hospital status, diversion status, and just pulls that data in response to the medic right away with the information. And so now I can stay focused on my patient, and we know what our destination hospital availability is.
Significant for some others, but we can also integrate with dispatch and CAD. So I'm going to have Greg talk a little bit more about this as well, and we can see what this could look like in real time as well.
Yeah, the extension of this was for, most dispatches, I just need to send information to my field units, and they might have an MDT or they might be on radio only. But this is another, routine back and forth that I could automate with the bot. So the example here is using Rapid Deploy's CAD, but this could easily integrate with, existing CADs, or if you're thinking about moving towards, one of the newer CAD systems like Rapid Deploy, the integration's already there. But as soon as a unit is dispatched, a bot in the group speaks that dispatch out to the medic unit. The medic unit can respond when they're en route, and the bot will automatically update their status in the CAD to en route or on scene, request for additional resources using their voice, right? And allowing people, the actual human dispatchers to stay focused on maybe critical tactical conversations, fire ground operations, or other places where you might actually want to keep the person in the loop, as opposed to sort of your day-for-day medical calls.
Any questions about that? Okay. So in addition to integrations into various dispatch, for example, or communicating with dispatch. We also, and we touched on this very lightly, we're not going to spend a lot of time here, but as an IoT application, we can integrate with that as well. This one happens to show a drone application, but if drones are in use, as an example, we built something called a survey bot. And the survey bot allows someone on an Orion platform to use keywords, once again, for example, log my coordinates, take a picture, to interface with that drone in the sky. So this could be from somebody who's in the field, either on foot, it could be from a vehicle, for example, as well, or any other location. So in this case, it's going to be the employee Officer Smith, for example, and then provide those GPS coordinates and take a picture of something that's there. And this is something that was built out and tested on a federal level within defense for one of their use case scenarios that's now been applied to the public sector at both what's called the state and the local level. And then some more advanced capabilities. So what we're seeing right now is the ability to use voice from within a vehicle and to control not only local functions of the vehicle, but then exterior or cloud-based functions as well. So if, for example, I am in a high-speed pursuit or even low speed, for example, I have the ability to, for example, with voice, control the lights on the vehicle. Also to control the siren. So we can interface with control head to manage these things locally, but then also use voice to, as an example, integrate or to query a license plate, for example. And that's with integration to a database, third party. But I can do all that by voice while continue to have my hands on the wheel and concentrate on what I need to do, which is driving or following the subject, etc. And we can also extend to that vehicle the same capabilities that a typical user would have. So is there an emergency button? Is there a panic workflow? The code red bot, for example, or the panic bot using the keyword. And that could activate or let other units in the area know that there is an emergency. I can reach out to dispatch. Again, the same workflows we saw earlier, this can do for somebody who is on patrol, as an example. Any questions about this? Again, this is a more advanced capability and brings voice to everyone. So you don't necessarily need to have the underlying phone, but they can use essentially the same tools they have in vehicle, same microphone or microphone array that's in vehicle to extend to the cloud with more advanced capabilities.
Yeah, one quick question, or rather a concern maybe, is if you're going to have a command in a car and you speak the commands, you know, what would be the latency in seconds for the command to execute if it's going up to the cloud?
Yeah, we split these between local control commands and cloud control commands. So for local control, we would have the voice processing happen locally in the vehicle, you know, via an in-vehicle module or sort of a smart edge device. And then for cloud-based applications, things like license plate lookup or panic workflows or things like that, there would be some level of latency there beyond.
What would be locally? A second?
Locally, we minimize it, so we try to have the response in less than a second, especially because these are sort of a limited domain of commands that you're going to be executing, right? It's not going to be the corpus of language that you're going to have available locally. But you know, a second or less is what we aim for local.
Okay, good. That's good. All right, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So in addition to having, and we sort of saw this in image before, but in addition to having the solution available on devices you're likely already using, is the wearable device, we can also bridge to traditional radios. And we do it in a format that's relatively simple. So we have what's essentially a standalone bridge. It's a plug-and-play bridge that allows you to use your traditional radios and have those on the channels, communicate with others who are using the platform on the app, and also access some of the more advanced capabilities that we can offer as well from the platform. So the bridge we have, as opposed to others, is, depending on how it's configured, is plug and play. So it connects to the Ethernet, and then uses either a donor device or a donor radio, essentially is what it uses. That's set to a specific channel, and then broadcasts out to everyone else who is on that channel. So the solution we have is plug and play. It's a ready device. It's fully integrated as an Orion client and allows us to remotely provision and manage it. And you can have up to, I'm going to have Greg talk a little bit more about this, but you can up to 3, depending on how many boxes are configured, have essentially an unlimited number of channels. Each of the boxes can manage up to 3 or 4 channels.
Yeah, the box that we're showing here is a 4-port device. So, you know, we could, if we're working off of donor radios, we could have up to a maximum of 4 donor radios plugged into each of the bridges, which again themselves are you know, turnkey, remotely managed bridges. And then those can bridge over to however many Orion groups you have. I know there's going to be the question of whether we support sort of native bridging through ISSI or AIS. That is not a capability we have right this minute today, but it is a capability we will have probably in the first quarter or first half of next year, the ability to connect via ISSI or AIS to existing radio systems. But today, the way we sort of deploy that solution is through donor radios.
Okay, any questions about any of the technologies before we sort of move forward to the model? Do we have in place the business model?
Yeah, I got one quick one. While you're going through this, is out there that are beta testing or field testing these units, so if we need to, we can go out and visit and evaluate them based on our needs?
We do, yes. So we work at not only the federal level for some organizations whose names we can't share, but there are others that sure, I'm certain would be happy to discuss. We also work at the state and local level. So depending on the agency or organization you represent, I'm certain we could find a similar like organization, sure. And then we'll discuss as well momentarily as the business model, how you could actually get hands-on and pilot these and what that could look like for your organization.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks.
So the model we use is relatively straightforward. On the wearable devices, it's $99 per device. Bots or the voice assistants are an add-on to the subscription. And again, we can either develop those in-house or you can develop them. There's some bots, essentially the framework for the bot are there already, and we work with you to map this to what you need. The radio bridges are as a service, so they're fully managed, a SaaS-based pricing model, so that's a monthly fee for that, depending on the number of channels that are used. And then the service itself, again, those wearable devices are optional. The service itself starts at $6 per user per month or $60 per user per year. And that is accessing the solution via the app whether on iOS or Android, and also provides full access to the administrative portal of the command center and modules. There are additionally other solutions or devices of service we have, for example, in some of the specialty devices. I'm certain some there are using Kyocera Duraforces. And so, as you're familiar with this has a dedicated PTD button, and we can map that button to our service. And so we are essentially leasing these for you, provided as a service. So it's end-to-end solution and works as a standard client, and it's compatible with all the talk groups. Now, you can mix and match any of these, so you can have a dedicated hardware piece, for example, like this, an iOS user, Android user, app only, those with wearable devices, for example, and they all play well together. Additionally, it's probably important to note that we are carrier agnostic. So we work, as long as the underlying device can connect to the internet, then we can communicate across any distance, but as well among those on different carriers. So another solution that, of course, is the Orion device as a service, which is this Kyocera. Also functions on top of Sono.
So real quick on your billing there, if it's $6 a month, and are you discounting it then for 12 months of service?
We are. That's correct.
So 72. It is going to be $60.
That's right. There is
okay.
There's a discount. Yep, precisely.
Excellent.
Exactly. Yeah. And to give some access to sort of a very high level of areas this is deployed in, then there are packaged and custom bots that can be created. We can also integrate into various telecom services, whether that's SIP or RTP, et cetera, various bridges, the radio bridge as well that we've dug into a little bit as well, and then the standalone devices, whether a Kyocera or a Sonum or an app only, for example. We do have pilot programs that are available immediately. This allows you with no risk to try the solution, try the platform. And so whether it is on an app only or you opt for devices as well, there's no risk associated with this. Any questions about the solution, technology, pricing model? Excellent. Okay. So I thought what we would do is take a moment to talk a little bit about, I'm certain it's back of mind, the transition from traditional radios to LTE or to cellular. So I think you're probably seeing it increasingly today. You're hearing more and more about it. I know there were some concerns about latency, for example, from in-vehicle and out-vehicle. Not solution, but I thought on this time we could talk just a little bit about what's happening in that transition and how cellular can enhance solutions that are already in place, particularly your radios that are already in place.
Yeah, what we're seeing is, instead of wholesale replacing radios, where more and more people have smartphones, and we're leveraging the phones more and more for the applications we might normally only be able to access either MDT or a computer back at the station, or voice only over the radio. So we're essentially, aiming to not just free up time and bandwidth, but push the capabilities to the edge, right? Make the person in the field, the responder in the field, smarter, safer, and more productive using, using their voice and allowing them to stay heads up and eyes up and engaged with their patient or their customer or whoever it is or whatever it is, whatever situation they might be dealing with. The bet we're making, and I think the bet is it's made overall, is that, connectivity and coverage are only going to increase and become better. And and the edges are going to continue to blur as far as the boundaries of the network. And that's the bet we've made. And I know there's always going to be areas where there's no coverage, or areas where there's never going to be coverage. And I think there's specialty solutions for those, but most of the time, we're betting that you're going to be in an area with coverage. You're going to have a device that works and operates, and you're just going to need that capability. And so we're building the platform around that. Additionally, we're building it so that we may not have all of the answers for the types of integrations and bots and solutions that you may need. So we want to give you the capabilities to not just give us feedback as to what you might need as far as bots and integrations, but if you are in an environment where you are capable of building those yourself, or you have some knowledge, some working knowledge, you could begin building those integrations yourself. We manifest this for some of our commercial users through our integration with a platform called if this then that, which is kind of a WYSIWYG interface for building workflows and integrations using Orion and using your voice. And these aren't deep integrations, right? You're not talking to an ERP or a CAD system, but for simple controls, it's allowed our users to sort of start building and prototyping more sophisticated workflows. Later on in the year, we'll be releasing a bot SDK that allows both our users and third parties to sort of begin building and packaging more sophisticated workflows on the platform, as well as sort of an expansion of the edge devices that we operate on. Right? Again, you can use an app, you can use a Sonom XP8 or a Kyocera DuraForce Pro. You can use the Onyx. But later on in the year, you'll see some additional connectivity options from us that will expand, sort of the horizon, or expand the types of edge devices you can use to connect to the platform.
Okay. Any other questions or any other insight that we can provide into either the business model or the solution itself? We'll of course be available post conversation should there be follow-up questions, but any we can tackle at this stage?
Any questions from anybody on the line? This is Ed Mills from OIT. Anybody else have any questions before we close today's Lunch and Learn?
I would ask, just like I said before, if there's references, people we can contact that have this information or are using it. So if that can be released, I appreciate seeing some of that. I'd like to make some calls, learn a little bit more about the product, that's all.
Sure, yeah, absolutely. And so what we can do is arrange, if there's something that's more compelling for you, give us some insight into sort of your function in the organization. Happy to facilitate an introduction, for sure. Then we can also tackle or address any questions you may have as well, but have you speak one-to-one, sure, absolutely.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And just FYI, any major event here in the metropolitan area of Denver, a lot of that is all ISSI based now. So when you get that interface, that'll be something we'd like to check out.
Awesome.
Excellent. Okay, that sounds great.
Yeah, we do have a SIP interface today, so sort of the next phase of that is taking that same base and making it ISSI compatible. So we're on the path to that for sure.
Excellent. Thank you.
We have a question from the internet, and if I can get close enough to Kim's screen here, it says, is it possible to keep a cache of accounts and assign as needed?
Yeah. Because the system is dynamic, so you can activate and deactivate accounts whenever you need them on the fly. You could pre-populate a bunch of accounts and sort of hand them out as you need them. So this is around, like, I have a special event today. I need to turn up 50 users, but at the end of the week, I don't need those 50 users. And we hear that a lot. So yeah, and that's a capability that's available on the platform.
Great, thanks for that question. Anyone else?
And let me just add a little more nuance to that as well, to that question. So you can create users on the fly, and you can create the users on the fly en masse, in fact. So if there's a special event or there's an outside agency that you need to communicate with in real time and immediately, you can easily scale up or create invitations or create a talk group specifically for that outside agency or that user quickly. So we don't throttle you in that respect, and all that can be managed via the command center. So you can create a group on the fly that's a special event and send out email invitations or text message invitations, for example, that have someone click the link, download the app, and they're in that group communicating. And that happens in near real time.
Yeah, one of the capabilities we built early on, and it was around more of the social aspect of communications groups, was the ability to send what we call a deep link to other folks and allow them to quickly onboard to the platform. So depending on the permissions that you allow on your groups from an admin level, your users can SMS or email a link to the group, and anyone with that link can click it, and if they have the app installed, it'll drop them right in the group. If they don't have the app installed, it'll prompt them to download the app, and once they've downloaded it, boom, they're in the group and they're communicating. So you can really quickly onboard folks. If you have a special event or an incident, or you're just trying to get turned up really quickly, using that deep link.
Okay. Any other questions? Hearing none. We wanted to thank everyone. We just wanted to thank everyone for coming for our first Lunch and Learn series. We did. I thought it went really well, and a special thanks to Orion Labs for being the first one. And again, we just want to mention, if you just joined us, if you would record your attendance at our broadband email. That is OIT_broadband@state.co.us. That's OIT_broadband@state.co.us. And what will happen is, if you send that to us, we will send you a PDF. We have recorded this session, and we'll send you a link to that URL so that you can listen to it again as you wish. And you'll also have in there Gabriel's and Greg's contact information. And we always have to give disclaimers here at the Governor's Office of Information. And the disclaimer is, Governor's Office of Information Technology does not endorse solutions featured in the Lunch and Learn series. And we just want to give you the best information that we have at the time. And before we close, are there any other questions that you might have for Orion Labs, either Gabriel or Greg?
There was an addition of, how does the billing work with the cash?
Did you guys hear that question?
We did, yes. And so what happens is that at the end of the month, it's essentially tallied. And so we can see the number of users that are there and current. And so you may have 20 active users and then scale up for a special event. Let's say it's 60 or 100 or whatever that might be. They're billed out at a monthly rate, and then it comes back, it reverts to the standardized number of users that you have on a monthly basis.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead. Anyone else? And again, that email, if you're thinking your question, is OIT_broadband@state.co.us. And if you didn't get that, you can contact anyone on our team, Kim, myself, Sarah, Brian, Megan, or Tony, and we will make sure that you get the right information. Again, we want to thank Orion Labs. Thank you for giving us a great presentation of the work that you're doing. And we want to thank everyone for giving us a little bit of your day to come and talk about public safety technology. Thank you very much. We'll talk to you soon.
Many thanks. Appreciate it.
Hey, you Ed.